Hi, Janelle.
Hello, Dr. Valerie. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. Ooh, where do we begin? Where did we begin?
Where
How
to
how did
begin?
you get on this journey with us?
Well, I first came across your book, a dear friend of mine who had known my interest in the book, How the Body Keeps the Score, was like, have you heard of this book? I think you'd be really interested. It had just come out. It was February of last year when
Mm,
was told to me. And so I was very excited, purchased it right away, read it right away, and was shocked. It blew me out of the water because I have been looking for this probably my
mm,
entire life, but definitely deliberately for at least the last 15 to 20 years. And trying to figure out why, no matter how much therapy I'd had, no matter how many self-help books I'd read, no matter how much I talked about my struggles, I kept returning to the issues, whether it was anxiety, whether it was weight issues, whatever it was. And then most recently, I was diagnosed with ADD, and
mm,
I've just been like so frustrated. I was like, there has to be something. And
yeah.
um, not only in your book did you say it's not you, it's PSD, but you explained it. You explained why I felt arrested in my professional development, why I was always anxious and feeling like I couldn't do enough, couldn't be enough, why no matter how I looked or how I carried myself, it wasn't attractive enough. Like there was always these unreachable standards, and it caused so much anxiety and so much frustration, and all the energy it took toward that was taking away from me fully living my life.
Mm,
So when I read the book and I got to the point at the end where you so generously gave your website and was excited that there's more, that I could connect with you on more work. I really was just looking for the ability to download the Repower tool. There was, I think, a
mhm,
video or an audio clip.
yeah.
And so I registered in order to access those tools, and then received notification of the first thriving experience in May of last year. And I thought I'd struck gold, which I do feel like I did. And got to the end of that weekend and just couldn't believe where I was at in this journey in terms of just getting to, like, I could glimpse the relief, the potential of where this was heading. And
Mm,
I turned 47 last year. My youngest went to college. It's like, who am I now? And I do not want to spend the rest of my life feeling like this. And
ah,
it was desperate. So I joined the Thriving Solution for the June cohort, and got to the end of that and was just, I knew I wasn't done with the work. And I was a little daunted by the year program and the financial investment. And I just couldn't, I was like, how am I going to do this? I just can't imagine, investing in
mm,
myself that much. But I attended the August Thriving Experience, and again had a great experience, and just knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I needed to join the circle.
mm,
Um, but I came off that experience, and you met with us in our Thriving Solution cohort and asked for our ahas. As we do, we always talk about our jailbreaks and our ahas. And I said in that group that I thought I needed to go to law school, that I needed to go and do this. I needed to go make this investment in myself, and so that I could have the approval or of my expertise. And then you were filled with that righteous fire. And I know we've talked about this before, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite stories. But you were like, why would you spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the patriarchy to anoint your expertise and strategy? You already have those from your work experience. And it was like, just like that what's the cleansing fire? Like, it was like,
oh,
that is so true. And then all of a sudden, my investment in the circle seemed incredibly easy to accomplish. So it was all of a sudden not a problem. It was like very clear to me, and so I was, exploring that and knew that this was the first time I'd found anything that actually worked.
Mm.
My time in the solution was already having an impact on how I situated myself professionally. It was already having an impact on my relationships with my partner and with my family. And so I knew I wanted to go into the circle. And one of the things that, was kind of in the back of my mind, having grown up in a very conservative religion,
Mhm.
was, this is a significant investment with two people who are like heading up this work, you and Jeffrey.
Mhm.
And so I was concerned about, like, is this a cult? Like, this is a lot
Mhm.
of investment from me and things are real tight. We're all real close. How is this
Mhm.
working? But the more I get into the work, and what I knew then is that the difference is that me and my authentic wisdom is what's centered in this work. It is not you,
Mhm.
it's not Jeffrey, it's not your book. There are no sacred teachings. What's sacred is me and each of the
Yes.
members of the circle and our authentic wisdom. And I just so appreciate how you credit other teachers you've learned from. You and Jeffrey both, reference them and credit them, and really allow us to move through the journey with what is right for us. And that there isn't someone
Mhm.
else's standard. I mean, that's the whole point of dismantling the patriarchy, is that there isn't someone else who knows better than I know for
How
myself.
about that?
So you are leading by example, and you help us to understand ourselves and to understand ourselves by way of your own journey, but not
Mhm.
because you know us or know better for us. And so that was a really important piece for me, um, and something that I found to be unique. So
Mm.
I joined the circle in September. Again, making all of these jailbreaks around my professional work. I really finally now feel like I can access my authentic desire, which I couldn't even get to
Yes.
last spring. I'm starting to understand what that is. And it doesn't mean I'm doing something hugely different than the work I'm doing now. It means that I'm doing it in a different way and I'm living in a different
Mm.
way.
Mm.
My relationship with my partner is continuing to grow. I have incredible compassion for my mother and my female ancestors and all that they've been through, by way of me understanding this work more. But I think what's most significant and what has happened most recently in a very real way is what's going on with my ADD diagnosis, or
Huh.
medicating it. So in your book, I remember, in your book, you talk about how so many women you've worked with who are being treated for anxiety or depression or ADD, and you list off these different challenges or conditions, have made progress and moved past the need for treatment for them. I don't remember exactly how you framed it, but when I read that, I was like, that's some woo woo shit right there. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know about that. Like, what is that? I believe in science, and I'm skeptical about this, but I came to this last February, just a month ago, and I've been medicated for ADD for a year, and it had been working really well for me. But then I started realizing that during the day that I was feeling overstimulated.
Mm.
And I don't drink caffeine because I'm very
Mhm.
sensitive to stimulation. And I was like, the only stimulant I'm taking is my ADD medication. And so I just did an experiment. I quit taking my ADD meds with working with my therapist,
Mhm.
or my medical provider,
Mhm.
and just wanted to see how I'd feel. And I feel great. So then after 3 to 5 days, I was like, okay, what is the scientific explanation for this? Because I don't get it, right? Like, I don't get how me doing this internal work can somehow have this medical impact. And I'm not a
Uh-huh.
medical provider, I'm a financial person.
Mhm.
So I don't know all that stuff. But what I came to and realized is that when you're living your life trying to fit into a broken system, that the amount of stress, toxic, continual, chronic stress, is what wreaks havoc on our bodies, and is what wreaked havoc on my body.
Yeah.
And when I left that system, and I'm no longer I no longer feel beholden to patriarchy or to other people's expectations for me, and I'm making my own
Mm.
life. I'm sleeping better. I'm eating better. I live my life differently. And not that anything significantly has changed. Like I live in the same house, my family's the same, like all those systems are
Yeah.
the same, but I'm not moving in the world the same.
Mm.
And I don't need the medical support like I did to try and live in that broken system.
Oh.
And that
Whoa.
was like, blew my mind. I was so excited to tell you about it. And that has been significant. So I'm still not taking the medication and still feeling amazing in how I'm going about my work and how I'm living day to day. And it's just continuously moving through the work that I'm doing. So
Janelle,
yeah, big news.
there's there's so much. And oh my, I'm digesting this and what you said. Well, huge, first huge celebration,
Mhm.
of course, of going from, oh, that's some bullshit right there. I don't know about that, to noticing, huh, I am feeling kind of different, kind of overstimulated. Let me investigate, and doing it in a safe and responsible way with a medical provider. Okay, going off the stimulant there and feeling great.
Yes.
And then connecting the dots, and the way that you connected the dots really just broke me open right there, that you had been medicating the effects of living
Mhm.
and trying to comply and play by the rules of the broken
Yes.
system. Whoa.
Yeah. And then
Whoa.
it just makes me think like how much more of my life is challenged by trying to respond to that system. It's just, and how much of my children and my parents and my family, like how many of us are broken or hurting because of trying to play in that system.
Trying to play in that system. And oh, it just, I'm feeling this impact of your discovery so deeply, so deeply. And you've heard me speak of anxiety as a natural reaction to feeling
Yes.
unsafe. It's
Yes.
a natural reaction. You feel unsafe, you feel anxious, that's what happens. Depression is a natural reaction to oppression. Hello,
Yes.
you're
Yes.
oppressed, you
Right.
yeah, you will feel depressed. It's total natural. And then I have I'm not against medication in any way. It can be
Yeah.
life-saving. It can be something that actually enables people to get on the
Mhm.
healing journey.
And I believe that's what it did for me. I believe that it calmed me enough to help me to pay attention, and I've moved
Wow.
past it. And I'm just eternally grateful
Mm.
and curious to see what else happens. And I think
Oh.
in large part too, I think the ability of me to even recognize that I felt overstimulated is a direct result of the work with you and with Jeffrey around being in my body, being connected
Yeah.
to my physicality. Um, I mean, I've even moved past referring to my body as my body. It's me, being
Yeah.
fully connected to myself and
Yes.
listening to my wisdom and knowing that it's here, it's in me, it's part of me, and it's not separate from. I'm not separate and fragmented. I'm whole.
Oh, you are whole, and right? Again, like anchoring back to what you were saying about honoring your wisdom, honoring what you know versus, well, somebody else has a standard for me. Somebody else, quote unquote, knows better.
Mhm.
Somebody else has a like sacred teaching way of doing
Yes.
things that is supposed to fit me somehow. I'm supposed to fit into that somehow versus
And they're
I
watching all
know
the
what is,
time. Yeah.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
watching all the time.
Versus I know what's right for me. How freaking revolutionary is that?
Yeah.
I know what's right for me. I know what's right for me. Yeah, the the doc said, okay, this medication will be good for you. And it was. And then I noticed I'm feeling differently. I know what's right for me. I'm going back to the doctor and having this conversation.
Yes.
Look, doc, this is what's shifting. Okay, work with me here. We're in partnership, right? We're in partnership.
Yeah.
And who leads in this partnership is that you're in a knowing,
Yes.
not any
Yes.
authority figure.
Yes.
And I feel that we so often, because of PSD, right? Not our fault, but we so often fall into this trap of giving away our power to
Yes.
authority. And
Oh,
that's such deep
absolutely.
trauma,
Yeah.
right? From, you know, experiences in any area, any cult, right? There are so many institutional cults around.
Yes.
Let's not even go into
Right.
that. But it can be with a medical provider too, not because they wish us not well, not at all, but because subconsciously we may give away our power and go by, okay, the doc said I have depression and I'll be on medication for the rest of my life. Okay, maybe right now it is appropriate, and maybe it doesn't have to be the end of the story. Maybe this is the beginning of the story. Okay, now that I am able to, I have this support and I can go deeper, and I can go deeper into healing and observe what happens. And maybe I start shifting in ways that don't require that additional support of medication or whatever that is anymore.
Yep.
And again, that is your authority. That is you hearing it from your body, not anybody else. Like, we didn't tell you, Janelle, like, you gotta no, like, take medication, not take medication. That never entered the conversation.
And I really think that that's important to point out. Like, there was nobody in the circle at any point, not you, not Jeffrey, not any one of the others who were members of my group, who said I should or shouldn't. Nobody told me what to do.
Yeah.
I was able to say, this is my experience. This is what's happening to me. And this is what I think I should do. And had support for it. But so that's one thing I think is a really important piece of this experience and membership in the circle, is that, or any program with you, is that it really is about what do I need for myself? What do I know for myself? And that is so different than anything, any therapy I've been to, like any self-help book I've been to or read, and even with your book, it's you talking about your experience and this description, and never do you say this is what has to happen or what you need to do. Like, and I just really value that, because now I'm centered in my own life for the first time in 47 years.
Oh, Janelle, this is so life-giving what you're sharing with me, and so healing for me too, because I too have had traumatic experiences or re-traumatizing experiences in therapy, in healing situations that were meant to be safe, and they came by way of, well, different ways, but me subconsciously giving away my power to the authority figure. Well, I'm working with this doc, like, he knows. And then they using that power, perhaps also unconsciously, because that's how patriarchy operates. And I remember this particular therapist, well, I brought this very powerful inner experience to this therapist. And it wasn't the only instance, but that's the one that stands out. I had this powerful dream, powerful prophetic dream that actually contained such deep guidance on a major life transition. It was so vivid. It was just, whoa, like I don't recall experiencing dreams like that before that were so on point, so vivid. I shared with him, and he was like, no, it sounds like an anxiety dream to me. And it's just so deeply, I don't even need to find words to describe what it did, because you and whoever's watching can probably feel that impact. And I'm sharing this not to say, oh yeah, oh, bad therapist, whatnot. It can happen any day with anyone, in your life, that subconscious giving away your power to somebody, and that somebody subconsciously taking that power.
Mhm.
And sometimes consciously, I mean, that happens too, of course. And part of this journey of this reclamation is, let us come back to our sovereignty. Let us come back to our power and heal all of these difficult experiences where we were not in power. And it's not our fault. And when we were little, we didn't have a say. We didn't have, and we couldn't be in power. And things happened, and things happened that were traumatic. And throughout our lives, there's so much to heal, so much to reclaim. And one of the foundational principles for holding a safe container in our community, as you know, is we don't give advice, right, to each other as we're working together. Nor do we, as leaders, facilitators, we don't give you advice either. We don't give advice. And that is one of the tenets of that thriving culture, how to keep a safe container. And I'm so glad that it came up for you, and it was significant in your healing journey, and you brought it up in sharing about it, because I think that it's just something, obviously, I feel very passionate about. I didn't even know where we were going to go in this conversation, touched on so much for me, but I'm so passionate about women and really people across the gender spectrum reclaiming their sovereignty, reclaiming their authenticity, having their voice, knowing their voice, using their voice. And that is something that we, I think, are exploring on deeper and deeper levels in on this journey, as we are listening to our thrivers. You know how you all take us higher every step of the way.
Yes, I do. I mean, I feel like we are growing together. And I think that's another wonderful aspect of the work is that it's so authentic, and no one shows up as I know everything or I'm perfect. You know, like, you lead us with your experience and what you know. But we all grow together and move together. And that is incredibly powerful. It's really about holding the container and the space for that.
Oh, Janelle, I'm so freaking excited that we're on this journey together. I'm so grateful for the guidance that has been connecting us right at these junctures. And I know we have ways to go.
I know we're only halfway through.
We only have
got so much. I've got
halfway through the year.
I'm grateful. I only have half more left. I have that much time left.
And yeah, here is to how good can it get, and many more amazing discoveries, and celebrating just with so much joy, with everything. Really, every cell of my body is dancing in celebration and recognition of your journey, and how this healing really, I mean, the healing that you embody, you experience, it then has the ripple effect, right, on all the systems that you are a part of, from your family, right, your circles, your work. When we've had conversations about that, you know, taking this work into wherever we are, and how things can shift from there.
Changing the world.
Changing the world. It is a pleasure and a privilege changing the world with you, Janelle. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.